So we're a part of a rural fire authority rather than an urban fire authority. So we don't have any New Zealand Fire Service presence on the island. So it reverts back to volunteer rural firefighters from either Dock or Auckland City to do all our fire suppression on island.
And I met a few of the volunteers when the fire that we had at our place on New Year's Day, and that I've written about in the bulletin. But how many people are actively involved in the fire service here on the island, and where are they located? Yeah,
with Auckland Council, we've got about 20 really good, keen, regular training volunteers, and Dock have probably got around about 10, I'd say, up in the northern area.
Okay. And when you say training, what's involved being a volunteer in the fire service? What sort of training does one need to have to join in the first place, and what does one do when one is a member of the fire service here?
Yeah, they are volunteers, but in saying that, rural firefighting is a reasonably hazardous business, so training is a really important thing. So we have regular fire trainings every second week, and it's not critical to come to every training, but you're certainly encouraged to come as often as possible and lift your skill levels appropriately so that you can operate in a fire situation in a safe manner.
And is this a good time to make a plug for more volunteers? What sort of complement have you got? Have you got enough people turning up here for?
Yeah, look, there's never enough, and we're always willing to take on more volunteers. There's a fair bit of work and commitment involved, a lot of training, and there's a certain amount of training you've got to do before you're even allowed on the fire ground. So, but in saying that, it's also a really good opportunity to upskill, and there's a wide range of things from four-wheel driving and chainsaw work to actual, rural fire fighting sort of training needs. So there's a wide scope of stuff that you learn.
Okay.
And it's all good for your own personal development and your own life skills into the future.
And as you say, it's voluntary, you're not doing it for the money.
No, you're definitely not doing it for the money. If you, if we got turned out to a large scale fire where you were there for a few days, then you would get paid for your turnout, but in general you don't get paid to go to training and you don't get paid to go to fires.
So how often do you end up having the excitement of going to a fire? It's like you said when you came to me that was the fourth generator fire within 12 months or so, and apart from generator fires, do you have house fires? Do you have bush fires? What kind of fires do you have, and how often does this sort of happen around here?
Yeah, well, look, from one perspective, we're really lucky. We don't have that many incidences of fires, and probably we get more structure fires than we do vegetation fire. But you've only got to look out the window to look at the risk and the threat we're all living under with the amount of really volatile vegetation on the island, and so we are at real risk from a serious fire, and it's something we've got to be in mind of all the time, because I think we have the potential to lose quite a bit of life on the island if we have the wrong fire in the wrong situation.
Now, sure. The generator fire that we experienced at my home, how frequent are the generator fires compared to others?
Yeah, definitely looking back in our statistics, generator fires would be by far our most prevalent occurrence, definitely. And the issue is you have a heat source and a fuel source right next to each other. As long as people can start their generator on a daily basis, people are usually pretty lax with maintenance. You've got exhaust systems which are giving out heat and potential sparks. They drive vegetation around them as they heat up, and then you've got this hot element amongst dry vegetation that's just really waiting to take off. So I would really stress everybody look at their generators regularly. Check out the exhaust. If the exhaust is in contact with any part of the generator shed, that's a real risk. Any dry vegetation around that exhaust, that's a real risk. We've had a lot of generators catch fire. I think people have really got to learn that a generator shed should be away from any other building. Should have nothing else in that shed other than the generator and the smallest amount of fuel possible.
Now, looking at the generator fires that happened in the most recently, can you tell? What were the previous ones, and what precisely happened in those cases?
Yeah, look, there's a range of different reasons why generators catch fire. You've got the electrical side of it, where you can get circuitry that goes wrong and overheats. You've actually got the motor sitting there, which is also has got the exhaust system and the heat from that. You've got the fuel usually sitting in the same shed. So we've had fuel lines that have ruptured and discharged the fuel onto the hot generator and caused the fire. We've had generator sheds, like Mulberry Grove School's generator, for example, caught fire a few years ago, and that was because the bracket hole in the exhaust had sagged and the exhaust pipe had come down and was resting against the actual structure, so that it heated up that one there, that really could have burnt the whole school down. It was only from a really prompt action from the fire service that stopped that one causing major damage.
I remember the one, I think it was last year as well, just across the road, there was a generator that caught fire there, across the road from the school. And there was because I think it was potential onshore wind at the time, that there was people talked about how close it was to just taking out the whole valley with the wind that was blowing.
We've been incredibly lucky. Every single fire we've had since I've been involved with Auckland Council, apart from the initial ignition, we've just had every ounce of luck on our side. It's always just rained, the wind's always blowing in the right direction, people have always caught it just in time. Yeah, probably the worst I can think of is a house in Rosalie Bay Road maybe 8 years ago, where the generator was under the house and the house was well involved before the people inside even knew it was burning. And that house was almost completely gone before the fire service even turned up. So yeah, they're incredibly dangerous things, and people need to be really aware of what's going on all the time and keep their maintenance.
Maybe we'll take a quick break, and then maybe we'll talk a little bit more about what people can do right now and go out and sort of think about the fire risk in their place and how they could just what they could do. So we'll come back for that in a moment. Just have a quick break, and we'll have a sip on our coffee.